I farmed the Travincal for 24 hours. Did I find anything good? Let's find out. And this was all done online on Ladder Season 13. I'm a level 93 Echo Strike Warlock, and this is the gear that I was using at the beginning of the video. Oryx Needle, Shaco with a Perfect Topaz, 27 Maras, Spirit Monarch, Enigma, Perfect Chances, Opal Vein, Arachnid Mesh, the Sling Ring, and War Traveler. I was also using a 39 Magic Find Guide, a 13, 17, 10 Annihilus, and a 13, 11 Torch. And I also have a bunch of charms giving me some stats and resists. That brings me to 307 Magic Find, right on the 75 FCR breakpoint, and all my resists are capped. My build is 1 point in Sigil Lethargy, max Echo Strike, Blade Warp, and Mirrored Blades, with 1 point in everything in the Demon spec and 20 points in Demonic Mastery to have 3 demons. My mercenaries using Insight, Treachery, and Vampire Gaze. With that being said, let's get into it. On my very first run, I found something very nice, a unique Grand Charm, a Guide. How is the first Guide of these runs going to roll? 120, 22, 12. That's very low, but it's still amazing to find the Guide on the very first run. On run 54, the consoles dropped the best gloves in the game from Magic Find, Chances, and it rolled with 36 Magic Find out of 40. That's a very nice find. On run 96, I found some very good unique flying axes for Throw Barbarians, Gimmer Shred. The elemental damage on this is crazy. On run 103, the consoles dropped something absolutely amazing, one of the highest rune in the entire game. A Sur rune. Yes! That has a drop rate of about 1 in 55,000 from the council members. On run 172, the councils dropped a new item for Warlocks, a set raw set armor, Horizon's Dominion, but unfortunately it rolled very low on the resist. Then on run 186, I found a very good unique ring from Magic Find, Naggle Ring, and it rolled with 28 Magic Find out of 30. That's pretty good. On run 262, the councils dropped a set Chaos armor for Necromancers, Triangle Scales. That's not best in slot at all, but it's always nice to find. Then on run 276, I found a pretty good Grand Charm. 1 to summoning skills for druids. That's nothing crazy, but it's always cool to find a skiller. 2 runs later on run 278, the councils dropped another new item for Warlocks, a set Codex, Horizon's Secrets. That's our second piece of the Horizon set. On run 313, I found some very good set gloves for physical characters. Laying of Hands. That could be very good for me for Trav runs because of the 350% damage to demons, but I prefer my Chances. 6 runs later on run 319, I found some other very good set gloves, but for Warlocks this time. Horizon's Gloves. While I find the entire set in these runs, we will see. On run 333, the councils dropped another new item, a unique legend sword this time, Dreadfang. This can be especially good for Barbarians because of the amplified damage on striking. And yes, that's a lot of 3s, and ironically I found this on run 333. On run 381, the councils dropped the hardest to find set amulet in the entire game, Talrasha Amulet. This is pretty good for Sorceress until you can get your hands on Amaras. 2 runs later on run 383, I found a very good small charm, 11 light resist and 3 faster run walk. That's an amazing find. On the next run, 384, I found one of the best helm in the game for physical characters, Guillaume's Face, La Facetigi. On run 387, the councils dropped a new item again, a unique burn text, Measured Wrath. That can be a very good piece for Fire Warlocks, but unfortunately it rolled very low on everything. On run 401, I found the only unique amulet giving faster run walk in the entire game, the Cat's Eye. That's a very cool amulet and can be very good for Javazons. On run 469, the councils dropped a very nice Grand Charm, 1 to Chaos Skills. That's a very cool skiller. On run 492, the councils dropped the best rare ring I found this season, 10 FCR, 109 attack rating, 6 lifesteal, and 9 all-res. That's an amazing ring and I will use it instead of my Opal Vein. On run 519, I found the best gloves in the game for Sorceress and Fire Warlocks, Mage Fist. This is not rare at all, but it's always nice to find. On run 561, the councils dropped a very good unique round shield if you need to boost your resists, Moser's Blessed Circle. With 2 perfect diamonds, that would give you 63 all resist. On run 600, I found something that we all need, a unique Grand Charm. How is Guide number 2 going to roll? 147, 26, 11. Not too bad. 8 runs later on run 608, the councils dropped another new item for Warlocks, a unique tome, Arsdul Mephistos. This is best in slot for Abyss Warlocks, but the very high enhanced damage make it also very good for the Echo Strike build. By the way, only about 8% of my viewers are subscribed to my channel, so if you like my videos, please click on the subscribe button. Thank you so much. Then on run 613, I found something else that is extremely useful if you need to boost your resists. Wizard Spike. This is the item that gives the highest amount of resist in the entire game with 300 total resist points. If you combine this with Moser's Blessed Circle that we have seen not too long ago, you would be pretty much invincible. Then I had a very long dry spell, but on run 787 I found a very good budget unique armor, Duriel Shell. The bonus to life, the can't be frozen stat and all the resist make it a very good choice for a low level mercenary. On run 870 the councils dropped a very nice unique Demon Hide Sash for melee characters. String of Ears. The lifesteal and damage reductions make it especially good for hardcore players. On run 884 I found something very rare, a unique jewel, the first facet of these runs. What is it going to be? 3-5 Cold Death Facet. Not very useful, but it's always cool to find the facet. 11 runs later on run 895 the councils dropped a Grand Charm. 1 to defensive auras for paladins. Unfortunately, this is one of the least valuable skiller in the entire game. On run 900, I found a unique gothic bow that could be pretty good for Amazons, Gold Strike Arc. If upgraded to a Hydra bow, that becomes one of the most powerful bow in the game, but unfortunately it rolled very low on everything. On run 932, the councils dropped a very nice rune for me, a Pull rune. That's not a high rune at all, but it's still very nice to find. Then 2 runs later on run 934, the councils dropped another rune. Try to guess which one it's going to be. Yes, another Pull rune. 2 Pull runes in 3 runs. That's crazy. On run 986, I found another very cool bow for Amazons, a unique Cedar bow, Kuko Shakaku. That bow has a level requirement of only 33 and it can drop in the normal difficulty. So if you find this in normal or early nightmare, you will be very powerful. 2 runs later on run 988, the councils dropped some very good unique Scarab Shell boots, Sandstorm Trek. This is the best in slot boots for a Nova Sorceress, but unfortunately it rolled with only 44 poison resist out of 70. On run 1024, I found the best gloves in the game from Magic Find for the second time, Chanseys, and this time with 33 Magic Finds. Not too bad. On run 1041, the councils dropped some unique boots that we found not too long ago. Sandstorm Trek again, but this time with 62 poison resist, 15 strength and 13 vitality. That's very nice. Then on run 1066 I found the best gloves in the game for Smiter Paladins. Dracul's Grasp. The chances to cast level 10 life tap and 25% chances of open wounds make these gloves very useful against the Ubers. On run 1080 the councils dropped something very nice, a unique jewel, another facet. How is the second facet of these runs going to roll? 3-4 poison level up facet. Unfortunately, that's not very good. On run 1092, I found a very good unique belt for melee characters. Verdungo's Hearty Cord. The faster hit recovery, very high vitality and physical damage reduction make this belt especially good for hardcore. On run 1171, the councils dropped a very good Grand Charm that we've seen before. 1 to Chaos Skills for Warlocks. Very nice. On run 1214, I found a set amulet that we also found before. Tall Russia Amulet for the second time. Then on run 1254, the councils dropped an amazing rune. A Vex rune, yes! That has a drop rate of about 1 in 43,000. That's an amazing find. On run 1280, I found a very good budget helm for Act 2 mercenaries, a unique Grand Crown. Crown of Thieves. This is the unique helm with the highest potential lifesteal in the game with 12%. On run 1320, the councils dropped the only unique ring giving the Can't Be Frozen stat in the entire game, Raven Frost, and it rolled very good with 244 attack rating and 18 to dexterity. On run 1345, the councils dropped some unique Vampire Bone gloves that we also found before, Dracul's Grasp, and it rolled very high with 10 lifesteal, perfect enhanced defense, 12 to strength, and 9 life after each kill. That's a very good find. On run 1359, the councils dropped a unique Grand Charm. How is the third guide of these runs going to roll? 141, 23, 11. Unfortunately, that's pretty bad. 4 runs later on run 1363, I found a very nice crossbow for Amazons, a unique ballista. Buriza. This is a very strong crossbow and it rolled with 196 enhanced damage out of 200. 25 runs later on run 1388, the councils dropped one of the best weapons in the game for shapeshifting broods, Rib Cracker. The very fast attack speed, very high faster hit recovery, and the 50 crushing blow make this staff very powerful. On run 1391, the councils dropped a very cool rune, not high like Vex, but a bit better than Pull. Yes, an rune. That's a very nice find. On run 1402, I found my favorite unique armor in the entire game to identify, a unique Dusk Shroud. Ormus Robes, and it rolled 15, 15, 14 with Meteor. That's an absolutely crazy item for Fire Sorceress. 20 runs later on run 1422, the consoles dropped a very good budget unique Sharktooth armor. Tooth Row. The 40 chances of open wounds make this armor especially good for PvP, and if it's Eth and upgraded to a Kraken shell, it can get to a maximum of 2568 defense, which is crazy. On run 1430, the consoles dropped another unique jewel, a facet. What is this one going to be? 3/3 Poison Death Facet. Yes, this is literally the worst possible facet in the entire game. On run 1495, I found some pretty good unique battle gauntlets if you need to boost your attack rating. Lava Gout. Level 10 enchants lasts for 6 minutes and it gives a bonus of 101% to attack rating, which is very strong. On run 1515, the consoles dropped a new set item for Warlocks, a set Demon Head, Horizon's Helm. This is the 4th piece of the Horizon set of these runs. Then on run 1529, I found something else for Warlocks, a Grand Charm this time. 1 to Demon Skills. This is the 3rd Warlock skiller of these runs. That's crazy. On run 1565, the consoles dropped a very good unique war belt for Amazons. Thunder God's Vigor, and the Light Absorb and Max Light Resist make this belt also very useful for anyone who wants to farm the Ubers. Then 2 runs later on run 1567, the consoles dropped a crazy magic amulet for Warlocks. 3 to Eldritch Skills and 29 Magic Find. That's probably the best magic amulet I've seen this season. On run 1625, the consoles dropped the item with the highest amount of physical damage reduction in the entire game with 35%. Storm Shield. This is an amazing shield for hardcore players. 10 runs later on run 1635, I found the only unique amulet in the game that can proc amplify damage. Atma's Scarab. This can be a very good choice for Straphazons. On run 1696, the consoles dropped the item that gives the highest increase to maximum mana in the entire game with 40%. Frostburn. This is a very good choice if you need to boost your mana. On run 1719, the consoles dropped a new item, a unique Death Mask, Hellwarden's Will. This is the only unique helm in the game that gives both increased attack speed and faster cast rate at the same time. 2 runs later on run 1721, I found a very nice rune that I've seen before. An rune for the 2nd time. That's a very cool find. On run 1772, the consoles dropped some very good thrown weapons for Throw Barbarians. Demon's Arc, and it rolled very high lifesteal with 11 out of 12. On run 1795, I found some pretty good unique Assassin's Weapon if you need to boost your resist. Jade Talon, but unfortunately it rolled very low on everything. Then 5 runs later on run 1800, the consoles dropped a unique Grand Charm, another Guide. Will this finally be a good one? 87, 32, 14. That's not too bad. Guide number 4. On run 1830, I found a very nice magic Grand Charm, another skiller. 1 to Shadow Disciplines for Assassins. That's a very nice find. On run 1852, the consoles dropped the armor with the highest amount of magic find in the entire game. Scolder's Ire. If you put an Ist rune in there, that can get to 148 magic find. On run 1871, I found one of the most sought after armor in the entire game, especially early in the season, Viper Magi, and it rolled with 30 all resist, but unfortunately it's Eth. 12 runs later on run 1883, I found another very nice Grand Charm, and this one is also giving 1 to Shadow Disciplines for Assassins, 2 Shadow Discipline Skillers in 54 runs. That's crazy. On run 1901, the consoles dropped a pretty good unique weapon for Act 2 Mercenaries. Hone Sunden. The 45 chances of Crushing Blow and 3 open sockets make this weapon a lot more powerful than it seems. 9 runs later on run 1910, the consoles dropped a very good unique Vampire Fang belt. Nosferatu's Coil. This is the only unique non-weapon in the game with both increased attack speed and slow target stats at the same time. On run 1943, I found a very powerful magic jewel. 40 enhanced damage with 26 gold find. I think this is the very first time I find a jewel with 40 enhanced damage. That's a very nice find. 7 runs later on run 1950, the consoles dropped a very strong budget weapon for Echoing Strike Warlocks, Pierre Tombale Couant. It doesn't look that strong on paper, but the Mana Steal and 55 Deadly Strike make this weapon a lot more powerful than it seems. On run 1969, I found a belt that gives the highest amount of magic find in the entire game, Gold Wrap, and it rolled with 76 gold find, which is very good. Then 4 runs later on run 1973, the consoles dropped another very good unique belt, Snowtlash. this can be a very good choice for a cold sorceress. And in these 2000 runs, I've accumulated a ton of perfect gems and I rerolled a crazy grand charm. 1 to summoning skills for druids with 42 to life. This is the skiller with the highest amount of life I've ever rerolled. And that's it. I found really good things in these runs and I hope it was fun to watch. My next video will be 24 hours of the cow level, and I also have a lot of other videos coming very soon. So be sure to subscribe to not miss any uploads. Massive thanks to all the channel members for supporting the channel. Thank you so much for all the support. And thanks to all of you for watching this video until the end. And as always, happy grinding.